What up? It's KenZerk, and welcome back. Yes, back to Umineko no Nakukoro Nia Shia Bia. Oh my! I was just thinking about Dashi, bro, and I was like, I had to hit that shit one time for the one time. What up, gang? It's KenZerk, Kenzillion, Zikamillion, the villain Finanoso Trillion, and we are back to Umineko no Nakukoro Ni. Rondo of the Witch and Reasoning type shit. Let's see what's about to pop off now. Let's see what follows up. Let's see what follows it up. My mind wandered back to the days I could barely imagine the happiness I have now. I was a middle schooler at the time. A normal girl who thought about love as much as you'd expect of someone at that age. But in truth, it was wrong of me to have that dream. After all, I am furniture. Furniture is nothing more than a tool, not a human. As a person less than human, simply receiving an education was an enormous blessing. So in reality, even thinking about falling in love was more than I deserved. The Ushiramiya Family Conference was a customary event held every October, but relatives sometimes visited at other times. Of course, they didn't come just to drink tea. On this day, Ava's family was visiting the head family on Rockinjima. The 3 members of Krause's family and the 3 members of Ava's family had gathered in the parlor and were having a friendly chat about recent events. Genji had supposedly told Kenzo of Ava's family's arrival, but he still hadn't come down. He was probably immersed in his research and couldn't spare the time. This often happened, so the others waited patiently for their fickle father to arrive. Oh, how promising. Make sure you work hard under your father, building the skills you'll need if you want to lend him a hand soon. Thank you very much. I've learned countless precious things from the many experienced people Father has introduced me to. And these were all things I could never have learned in school. When you're in school, it's not math and language you're learning. What they're really teaching you is the right outlook and attitude for learning more. Once you've got that base, you can finally start a long period of study that'll last your entire life. People who don't get this end up spending their whole lives as fools who never learn. Just getting full marks in math and language won't do you any good at your company. Indeed, that is exactly right. Hideyoshi, your style of education never fails to impress. George isn't quite a full man yet. He'd better always keep that in mind and embrace his studies. Stop it, dear. George is always giving it his all. Right? Truly admirable. I wish our Jessica would learn from him. Leave Jessica alone! Sheesh. Are you still holding a grudge about that test score? I'm studying for tests the best I can. At least don't say it here. Pissing me off. Once people started praising George for his diligence, the conversation usually turned to Jessica, who hated studying. Jessica made an openly displeased face, as though she'd known this would happen. My. Schoolwork aside, it seems like Jessica had better learn to choose her words a little more gracefully. How improper for the single daughter who bears the weight of the Ushiramiya family crest. Come now. She's quite appealing in her own way, isn't she? Times change. The time when we had to act all modest and entertain men ended long ago. That's right. I knew you'd understand, Aunt Ava. Natsuhi is not impressed. She's like, man, I got a headache, damn. She back with them damn headaches. She's back with the damn headaches. My headache is truly trying today. Are you okay? Natsuhi, you're looking a bit pale. Thank you. I am fine. Still, time really has flown. It feels like just yesterday when you would run around half naked by the beach and come back soaked. Wasn't your Jessica the same? And now she's a lady who fusses over how to put on makeup. I see you focus on your eyebrows. You look really cute today. See, I like Ava when she's not trying to piss off Natsuhi, man. Thank you very much. No one noticed. I was a bit unsure of myself. A full smile rose to Jessica's face as the result of her own studies were finally appreciated. Ava smiled back in the same way. Then she turned that smile towards Natsuhi. Come on, Natsuhi. You must take notice of small changes in your own child. Poor Jessica. You probably wanted your mother to notice first, didn't you? Come on, Ava! No problem, no problem. That person never notices anything. Damn! Damn. That's sad. Jessica. I cannot condone you speaking of your mother in such a fashion. Apologize. Later, I will speak to you at length about your language. You don't want kids getting in your way, just say so. I'm gonna take a step outside. It's getting stuffy in here. Jessica was still at the age where tests and entry exams were pretty nerve-wracking. Recently, she'd clashed often with her mom, who was enthusiastic about her education. Excuse me. Jessica, who was trying to leave the parlor in a bad mood, bumped into Shannon, who was pushing a serving cart filled with tea. Shannon, no need to worry about my tea. I'm just gonna go wander around in the garden. The lady, you couldn't apologize? Damn, Jessica? You that mad? Shannon, the tea is getting cold. Serve it quickly. She just got bumped into. She almost dropped the shit because of Jessica. Why you getting mad at her? Have some patience. Damn. My apologies. Shannon hadn't actually done anything wrong, but Natsuhi, who felt like something shameful to herself had been shown, lashed out at her emotionally. Oh, so she's just being irrational. Okay. This was something that often happened in the Ushiramiya family, but it seems Shannon wasn't strong-willed enough to just accept it and move on. That's the only thing I don't really like about Natsuhi, man. She be taking shit out on other people. Like, come on. She shrank back and cowered while serving the tea. She had the unfortunate habit of making more mistakes when she cowered. Her pitiful appearance ruined the peaceful atmosphere that had existed a moment before. It wasn't really Shannon's fault, but she thought she might be the source and felt the pressure on her chest. Her shaking fingers made the utensils clang, and you couldn't have called it graceful, not even just to be polite. The more pitiful she appeared, the greater the silence grew. The more irritated Natsuhi looked, and the more Shannon cowered. Shannon's thin neck felt like it was being suffocated and choked by the reaper known as stress. At that time, George spoke brightly, blowing away the stiff atmosphere. This smells nice. What kind of black tea is it? This is... No, don't say it. I'll guess. It's a very distinct smell, so I probably know it. Is it Earl Grey? I think it probably is. Yeah, I'll bet it's Earl Grey. When you get back from the kitchen, check the tin. George, you know a lot about black tea, don't you? One of the company presidents who's looked after me was very knowledgeable about black tea. I managed to pick up a little while listening to him discuss the subject. Oh yeah, the president of Okanogi Foods. Okanogi. Hold on now. Hold on now. Okinoki Moving Company? That, like, hold on. Is this the same person? Wait a second. Yeah, that sort of trivia is that guy's specialty. The names of black teas often refer to the places they're made, right? So, did this come from a place with that name? From what I've heard, there was a person called Earl Grey in England long ago, and it was named after him. Furthermore, this distinctive smell doesn't come from tea leaves, but from a fruit called bergamot, which is a relative of the mandarin orange. He knows his shit. Is that so? I never knew that. Learning things like that makes tea taste all the more delicious. Same thing goes for alcohol and cigarettes. Luxury items have a taste of romance. Knowing stuff like this deepens the taste. It's the same as reading the list of benefits on a medicine bottle. Natsuhi, you should try reading the explanation on your favorite headache medicine someday. Giggle, 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 giggle. That's a wonderful idea. Try it tonight. Yes, I'll do so. They just made the headache worse. She can't have a moment of fucking peace, can she? Damn. Shannon, try opening that pot. You should try to find some dried bergamot mixed in with the tea leaves. Yes. It's in there. Something like dried orange peel is mixed in. Yes. That's probably bergamot. The main ingredient in Earl Grey's scent. The scent is vivid, so you might expect the taste to be intense, but it's still gentle and easy to drink. If you make it with milk, the scent should become more mild, which works great. If there's anything left in the pot after you've poured for everyone, you should really try pouring milk. Drinking it with milk. Yes. Thank you very much. George gave her a small wink. Shannon finally realized that George had kind-heartedly swept aside the tense atmosphere in the room. Yeah, and he had done it for the sake of Shannon herself, a cowering servant. The Ushiramiya family did not pamper their servants. Any display of awkwardness would be harshly punished, so it was rare for them to be given a helping hand like this. Thanks to George's kindness, Shannon managed to regain control of herself and finish serving the tea without further incident. As long as she stayed calm, she could carry out her work elegantly and flawlessly. By the time the black tea was laid out on the table and its elegant scent filled the room, the atmosphere completely returned to its former peaceful mood, and everyone praised George's knowledge. Shannon wanted to thank him for saving her, but it didn't look like she would get the chance. So she decided to at least thank him inside her heart, praying to God that George would hear it as she pushed the serving cart away. That's the boy George. George always lends a helping hand at times like that, by changing the topic or something. Shannon and Jessica were in the rose garden. Jessica still hadn't returned to the parlor after getting into a fight with her mother and was nonchalantly killing time there. When I think back on it, I get the feeling this wasn't the first time he's helped me like that. Whenever I made a careless mistake and George was around, I'm pretty sure he'd always naturally smooth things over and restore the harmony. Maybe it wasn't something as direct as picking up a fork that had been dropped, but that was his way of caring. Even servants have their pride. They want to fix their own mistakes by themselves, and if a guest lends them a hand, they'll lose face. He's really good at reading between the lines when stuff like that happens. Well, I guess it's kind of an art to him. That guy's more of a show-off than he looks. That's not true. I think he's a really wonderful person. Shannon, you haven't fallen in love with George, have you? For once, Shannon had disagreed with Jessica in a slightly forceful tone, which immediately caught Jessica's attention. No, that's not it. I think? Come to think of it, I hardly heard any stories about George and love. Huh. I think I remember hearing him say that all family-oriented girls were his type, didn't I? Sweet, that fits you perfectly, Shannon. It does? How could... I am not, suitable for such a thing. Not suitable? Like hell you aren't. You've known him so long, you're practically a childhood friend. They say that when you start from a natural relationship, but you don't think of the other as a member of the opposite sex, then you start to move pretty fast once you finally start thinking about it. There's no doubt. Jessica loved teen magazines with this kind of story, and she was always getting excited talking about this kind of thing with her friends. She was very quick to pick up on love stories like this, so it wasn't the first time Shannon had been exposed to this kind of story. But this certainly was the first time she started thinking of George as a member of the opposite sex. She was furniture, and while George was an honored guest and a member of the Ushiramiya family, until now she'd assumed that even imagining any deeper relationship with him would be impermissible. So she hadn't thought of it. Since it was someone else's problem, Jessica poked fun at it, seeming to enjoy herself. It was all Shannon could do to hide her blushing cheeks. If George were to appear at a time like this, she'd have no chance of keeping her cool. Then George showed up. They saw George come out of the entrance hall of the mansion. It looked like he'd seen them as well. He headed over, waving his hand. Shannon had to frantically try and regain her ordinary composure before George reached them. Grandfather finally came down. Now they're having an adult discussion, so they chased me out. Escaping them was the right choice. It'd be better to kiss the angel of death than look at grandfather's face. You shouldn't speak that way. But you know, I think grandfather might think of us as angels of death. After all, we came here to talk about borrowing money for business reasons. That's right, this wasn't the customary annual October family conference. Ava's family had visited to apply for a business loan from the head family. Kenzo had vast resources, and he lent those out to his children. Of course, they didn't borrow money because they were living in poverty. How would they expand their businesses with the vast sums they wanted to borrow? How much interest would be attached, and how long would they have to repay it? This wasn't the sort of loan designed for the poor. It was a loan for those who were on the offensive. Kenzo strictly judged whether it would be worth lending out his fortune, and afterwards he strictly oversaw its use. So Rakenjima would sometimes play host to this spectacle, where relatives visited and described their businesses to Kenzo. To the parents, these meetings burdened them with the strain of having to move a vast amount of money. But to Jessica, who lived on the isolated island called Rakenjima, it was a precious opportunity to meet up with her cousins. So being able to talk with the occasional guest such as George like this immediately cured the bad mood she'd gotten from the fight with her mother. My family's totally stingy too. They probably got money to spare, so why not lend it out graciously? Dad and grandfather will probably get pig-headed and act all important. It's natural to be prudent when lending money. Of course, my father will use what he borrows to expand his business, and he came with a plan that promises a solid probability of repayment. Everything else is left up to the presentation. But I really wish I could watch from the corner and learn. Mother chased me out. I'm a little let down. It seems the master still tends to scold Kraus and Ava as if they were kids. I'm sure she didn't want to let her son see that. As Shannon hung her head, she thought back to a scene familiar to those who worked in the mansion. Even Kraus, who acted haughtily toward his siblings, was still treated like a child by Kenzo. Shannon herself had often seen Kenzo slap Kraus and tell him to sit up straight. Damn. It was probably very embarrassing to be coerced like that at his age. Taking care to avoid being present at times like that was one of the important responsibilities held by the servants working here. However, the fact that Shannon had ended up witnessing such a scene meant that she'd messed up at least once in the past. Yes, I'd imagine so. Maybe figuring that out and staying away is part of a child's duty. Ah, that aside, the flowers in this garden are truly splendid this year. George stressed as he said that, and he smoothly changed the subject away from one that was a little gloomy. This time, Shannon noticed it too. This person, George, could sensitively figure out the situation and always change the subject to something harmonious out of kindness. It was so smooth that Shannon hadn't noticed until today. Today, Shannon really had to admire the way George did that. Of the boys close to Shannon's age that she'd known, nearly all had been classmates during her period of mandatory education. But they had all been young and none possessed the composure George had. Mere moments ago, he'd just been another guest. But right now, she couldn't help but think of him as something more. However, such thoughts were mere distractions from her work as a servant. Shannon tried to chase them away with a small shake of her head. What's up? No, it's nothing. Shall I make some tea? I will prepare something more of, I will prepare some more of that Earl Grey. So you've remembered the name of the tea? I'm glad. Thank you for your concern back then. Shannon was finally able to put her gratitude into words. If you wrote it out, it wouldn't be very long. But Shannon had needed a little spark of courage to say it out loud. But George played dumb. What do you mean? I don't remember doing anything I should be thanked for. He seemed to be playing the gentleman in his own way, letting her know he wasn't doing it out of a desire for gratitude. George's response seemed to be more or less exactly what Jessica had predicted. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. See? Isn't he a bit of a show-off at times like this? No, that's not... Jessica poked fun at Shannon, as the latter remained silent, red-faced. George didn't know the details, but he naturally joined in, laughing the same way. The three of them lazily walked around the garden, catching up on recent events. George, as the oldest cousin, talked about his life experiences. Jessica talked about recent life on Rockinjima, and Shannon talked about her recent work. They kept going on about these trivial things. Even when Shannon heard the others talk about deeply interesting things, she never felt any particular interest about the actual content of their stories. She was nothing more than a servant, and she had no intention of delving into her master's lives. She simply wanted them to enjoy their time speaking with her, and would only pretend to listen intently and nod at the right moments. But for some reason, the things George talked about today seemed to catch her interest powerfully. Even things she'd normally ignore felt like they contained a trace of kindness behind the words. For some reason, she wanted to know more things about George, no matter how trivial. So, she stared fixedly at him. She thought that as far as looks went, this was Shiramiya George. Was probably about average and didn't stick out in any particular way. But he was diligent, serious, and had a deep prudence in which allowed him to understand people's hearts and show concern. He cute. He got a little face on him, you know. He got a little goofy ass haircut, but like, you know, it fits his face, so I'm rocking with it. You know, he got the big ass circle glasses, they fit his face. Like he good, he nice. Nigga, he all fixed up, he's straight. But she never noticed these things before. She may not have met him many times, but she'd known his face for many years. Even so, she hadn't noticed once until now. Shannon, embarrassed by her own obliviousness, blushed. George, perhaps thinking that Shannon would listen intently to his George, perhaps thinking that Shannon would listen intently to his stories, kept talking happily and at length about the things he'd done and seen. But Jessica didn't miss that slight change in Shannon, so she decided she'd change the conversation to a topic she was sure Shannon was most interested in. Oh yeah, come to think of it. George, have you finally gotten a girlfriend or what? Where did that come from? Normally that reaction should have been answer enough, but for some reason, as she was now, Shannon wouldn't be able to understand it unless he said it clearly. George is very nice, so I'm sure, he's very popular. Well, hahaha. Quit it, Shannon. Isn't cornering him like that actually pretty mean? I wasn't trying to be mean. Well, I'm flattered that you have that mistaken impression of me. But unfortunately, I still haven't had a relationship with any particular girl. After all, my looks are below average, as you can see. And I can't speak tactfully in a way that can entertain a girl. This nigga just straight up lying though. Nigga, your looks are not below average. You're average to above. You are a good looking nigga. I don't think that's true. And I think a man's charm is decided by something that can't be measured by his appearance. That's why, I think you might be considered, a very attractive man, George. Shannon was being uncharacteristically verbose. She hardly ever spoke at such length. George seemed fairly pleased to hear someone applaud his charm like this, but he was just a little surprised at this sudden high praise. Jessica, now sure her guess was spot on, appeared to be barely holding back laughter. Thank you, Shannon. I hope I do bump into a girl who's generous enough to feel attracted to me before too long. Yes, I'm sure you'll run into one. I'm sure there's at least one. No, a lot of girls who will recognize your real charm. She probably wanted to say that there was at least one girl very close to him. Shannon avoided saying that much, drawing a final line as a servant. Really? I guess I'm kind of embarrassed. He had probably never been praised as heavily by a girl before. George's face turned just as bright red as Shannon's. As she watched the two of them, Jessica giggled sadistically. Well, I'm sure you'll eventually bump into a wonderful partner, George. But I doubt you'll be able to properly escort your partner as you are now, right? Looks like you're diligent, but you've completely abandoned your study of that. Sorry about that. I'll start studying that bit by bit. And how do you plan to do that all by yourself? Are you gonna watch romance movies or something? Or are you gonna learn from Uncle Hideyoshi? Well, you're acting pretty triumphant. Men are no match for girls when it comes to this sort of thing. Normally, when George and Jessica got together, their parents would say George is diligent and admirable, and Jessica was lazy and rude. So it was probably unbearable fun for Jessica to have their roles finally reversed. George realized this as well, so he resigned himself to being the one getting teased for once. So George, as long as you're okay with it, why not practice a bit with Shannon? It'll be your job to keep Shannon entertained all day long on a date. What do you think? What are you? Milady! When she heard Jessica's audacious plan, Shannon's face turned bright red with a poof, and a donut of smoke started to rise from her head. That's a very tempting plan, but I wouldn't want to burden Shannon. It just ended up wasting one of her precious days off, wouldn't it? I'd be butting in on that sacred time that she would be spending alone with someone she really likes. That she should be spending alone with someone she really likes. I couldn't do something so boorish. Nigga, you are someone she really likes! I also, don't have a person I have feelings for or anything, so, there's no need to hold back for my sake. Shannon's blood had all rushed to her head. It looked like even she didn't know what she was babbling on about. Jessica, who knew how Shannon normally was, seemed to be finding this hilarious. She couldn't hide her cackling laughter anymore. Is that true? I can't believe a cute girl like you would be single, Shannon. I am a servant, so, of course I don't have any relationships with boys, which means that if Shannon ever wants a chance at getting herself a wonderful guy, she needs practice with relationships too, right? So you both want the same thing. Sweet, that'll be perfect. Jessica irresponsibly cheered the two of them on. By now, even George was hanging his head and turning red. George, I've been calling you for a while now. Didn't you hear me? When Ava appeared in what was already an embarrassing situation, both of them got even more flustered. Jessica watched and laughed loudly. Mother. Sorry, I was so engrossed in our conversation. I didn't notice. Oh, Ava. Ava-sama, you have my deepest apologies. Looks like you young kids are getting really fired up together. You're all about that age. Oh, I know how kids your age could talk about that sort of thing forever. Ah, come on, you're still young yourself, Aunt Ava. Please, tell us how you and Uncle Hideyoshi met. Oh my, there's no way I could say that. You all really are so young. All those damn giggles, calm down. So, what is it, Mother? You called because you wanted something, right? Your father and the rest have finished talking. We're gonna go talk to Grandfather about you, so come on. About me? What could that be? The same thing you were all talking about just now. You know what I mean, right? Oh, that. That isn't really something we need to talk to Grandfather about, right? What's going on? Wait, George, are you getting married? Congratulations! No. Didn't I just say I don't have a particular woman I was interested in? That isn't something to brag about, is it? Good grief. Ava smiled bitterly, looking a little exasperated. Oh, I get it. George, it's one of those, right? In Omiyai, a marriage meeting. A marriage meeting, you say? Well, yeah. Surely as a man, George wanted to find a partner by himself and bring her home with him. So it seemed he thought it a bit pathetic to meet his partner for the first time in a marriage meeting arranged by his parents. Shouldn't marriage meetings be done at a more mature age? I still don't feel like I'll become a full-fledged adult. Of course, we have no desire to rush into an immediate engagement of marriage, right? There's nothing wrong with deepening your friendship first and then having her move into our family registry after you've gotten older and settled down. Judging by Ava's forceful attitude and George's non-committal one, the other could catch a glimpse of the story behind this marriage meeting. They didn't know who George was supposed to be meeting, but it was surely someone who would profit Ava's family in the business sense. The very fact that they'd be satisfied with a mere engagement to deepen the relationship between the two families, rather than an immediate marriage, made it feel almost like a political maneuver. You see, marriage isn't something you should enter into only after you start liking someone. You marry first and then you adjust. If you marry based purely on emotions, you'll always end up regretting it. There's certainly nothing wrong with choosing a person with a secure background for your partner in life, and then developing your affection later. And Ava, isn't that kind of rude to Uncle Hideyoshi? I love that man. I want to always be with him and to live my life by his side. Ava-sama, that's wonderful. Truly splendid. Thank you. But we built up those feelings while we were husband and wife, you see. And I believe that in the future we will be much, much closer than we are now. I think that's what's best for a married couple. Still, I don't think you can use that to argue that it's okay to marry someone you don't even like. But it doesn't mean that it's okay to marry anyone, as long as you like them. It only takes an instant to get married, but your life as a married couple will last a long, long time after that. So you should search with prudence and avoid making decisions based on momentary emotions. That makes sense. Like, you can like somebody, you can love somebody even, but if they're not bringing shit to the table, you do gotta take that into consideration. Don't you think a matter like this would be better handled by us, rather than a person lacking in life experience such as yourself? That may be true, but I'm proud of you, my only son. You've grown magnificently, and I'm sure you'll do us proud no matter where you go. And now that Battler has left the family register, you are father's only male grandchild carrying his blood. We must prudently choose a fitting partner for you. As everyone related to the Ashuramiya family knew, Ava adored George immensely. But that didn't mean she had pampered him. She had been strict with him and had raised him into a wonderful boy who wouldn't betray her expectations. That was why she treasured him so. Your partner certainly won't be selected based on your parents' profit and loss. I'll bring you a suitable and truly wonderful woman. At this moment, your immaturity might make this seem unpleasant to you. But if you're gonna take my advice on anything, listen to me now. Have I ever failed to act in your best interest? No, you haven't. That's enough for now. So let's go. We're keeping father waiting. Hurry to the mansion. Well, sorry you two. See you later. George bowed to the two of them, and after bowing once more to Shannon, he dashed off to the mansion. I'll be going with him. Forgive me for interrupting such an entertaining conversation, Jessica, Shannon. No. Please, don't worry about it. Come on, Shannon. Let's go. Yes. It's okay. I'm sure you'll meet someone wonderful too, Jessica. A wonderful person suitable for you. So if he's at the same level as me, you mean a guy with shit grades? That kind of pisses me off. And of course, you too, Shannon. I'm sure that a wonderful man suitable for you will appear. Yes. Thank you very much. As Ava giggled and smiled, she approached Shannon's ear with a hand over her mouth, as though she was trying to tell her a secret. Huh? I'm sure you'll find a perfect match for a lowly servant like yourself. Have you forgotten to be grateful for your education? Know your place. It don't cost nothing to be nice, Ava. That's not what I meant. George is the eldest grandson carrying father's blood. He's a person who may bear the burden of the Ashuramiya family someday in the future. To answer that expectation, he studied tirelessly, entered a wonderful college, and is getting wonderful grades. Did you really think you could snatch George away, you uneducated, incompetent, unqualified, uncultured servant? Well, damn. I can't just enjoy the happiness of the moment for a second, Ava. I was fucking with you, now I'm not fucking with you. See, Ava is the roller coaster. You're fucking with her, and then you're not fucking with her. Then you're fucking with her again, then you're not fucking with her. Right now, I'm not fucking with her. Those malicious words all poured into Shannon's ear without spilling a drop. To Shannon, it was like cold water being poured in there. I didn't mean... This was all whispered to Shannon in secret, all with the same smile as before. Jessica, who could only see Ava's expression, didn't think it was anything other than Ava telling Shannon some embarrassing story about love. When their secret conversation ended, Ava patted Shannon's shoulders as though she was urging her on. Don't worry. I'm sure you'll find a perfect match for a partner, right? The fucking 4 giggles again. You stop that shit. You're about to piss me off, bitch. Okay, Jessica. See you later. Yeah, see you later. And make sure you tell me about you and Uncle Hideyoshi next time. No way. Ava laughed loudly and headed back to the entrance hall. Behind Jessica, who was cheerfully waving her hand, Shannon reflected very, very deeply on those words of Ava's about knowing her place. It's time for me to take a serious look at how full of myself I've been acting. I forgot. I'm furniture. Furniture isn't human. So I'm a being who must feel gratitude for even being treated like a human. And I am not permitted to wish for anything more. People sometimes develop affection for furniture they're used to using, but that is an emotion on the human side, and the furniture has no right to hope for such a thing. It's enough that furniture serves with simple honesty day after day. That feeling I got when talking to George and Jessica is the same as a forbidden drug to me. In other words, it may be an emotion I must never experience. Shannon, you've had your head in the clouds for some time now. Do you not feel well? No. My apologies. Natsuhi's words were right on the mark. Even Shannon couldn't believe that she hadn't noticed Natsuhi until she had called. Normally, it was essential that she focus on her cleaning at this time of day, but she spent all her time sighing and hardly making any progress. Even when there aren't any guests, you must always be alert. Behavior like this is shameful for an Ashiramiya family servant. Yes, ma'am. I will take care from now on. The head and my husband will return very soon. Have you finished cleaning the study? Have you finished cleaning the staircase? My apologies. Not yet. Yes, I know. So I had Lunan do it. While you were plodding around cleaning the hallway, she finished cleaning the study and the staircase. That's because, I wanted to clean it properly, so it took some time. Shannon was simple and honest, so she would always carry out her tasks seriously and properly without any omissions. But she was always slow with her work. In contrast, Lunan cleverly avoided doing extra work whenever it was possible, so she could complete her jobs with a result that looked almost the same to an outsider, but in a much shorter time. In other words, she was a shrewd employee. Compared to that, it was probably fair to say that Shannon wasn't very shrewd at all, talking back to Natsuhi when Natsuhi was in a bad mood. Of course, there was nothing that Natsuhi could stand more than a servant talking back. Her forehead creased as she spoke sternly. And yet her slow, admonishing style of speech was even more terrifying, and finally made Shannon realize she had said the wrong thing. Then perhaps you should aim to do a truly thorough cleaning. Shannon, I order you to clean the reception hall right now. It is an important hall where several pictures treasured by the head are displayed, and where honored guests of the Ashiramiya family are welcome. Clean it thoroughly. so that not a speck of dust remains, and so that even you are satisfied. Of course you will finish before the day is out. Until you finish that and report to me, you will not be permitted any food or rest. Understand? Damn, Natsuhi? Shit! Yes, madam. That is good. Servants should endeavor to only use those words. The next time you talk back, your punishment will be even more severe. So with that in mind, engrave these words into your heart. Yes, madam. Thank you for your guidance. You are welcome. Behaving as though her headache was troubling her, Natsuhi headed off down the corridor. When she couldn't see her anymore, Shannon hung her head and sighed. This was what happened when she had her head in the clouds. Even though I'm bad at everything I do, I should be able to at least carry out the cleaning as well as an average person can, right? It's because I can't even perform that very well that I'm crying so pathetically. What's even more shameful is that not only have I been unable to perform a single bit of cleaning well, but just now when Natsuhi was scolding me, I imagined that person appearing and rescuing me. If only George were here, would he casually step in and save me? Surely he'd show up cheerfully, intentionally acting like he didn't know what was going on, nimbly changing the subject and made me forget I'd ever been rebuked by Natsuhi. I kept envisioning him, suddenly appearing from the other side of the door, or the other end of the hallway. I envisioned the kind of person that would be an appropriate partner for him in a marriage meeting. I envisioned how unfitting I was for him. Ava clearly told me. It's been repeating over and over in my dreams. You're still as clumsy as ever, Ne-san. The lady has been in a bad mood since morning. That's just not happened because you talk too much, when you should have hung your head in silence. Kanon was suddenly there. His footsteps were always quieter than a cat's, and he never left any trace of his presence. He probably could have said that forever, and she still wouldn't have noticed him. The expression on Kanon's face was one of hatred. He made that expression for Shannon, who didn't know how to do it herself. Madam and Luna can fall into hell. That person knows where Madam checks and only cleans those areas. Her cleaning just now was like that. I know because I saw. She wasn't really cleaning. She was just the worst kind of parasite, leeching off your thorough cleaning. You mustn't use such dirty words. Dirty words pollute your clean soul, Kanon. So at least don't use those words in front of me. Okay? Kanon turned away as though sulking. It was a reaction that hid his true feelings, which was very like Kanon, but I was a little happy. He was getting mad for my sake. Cleaning the reception hall will be tough. I'll help. Thank you. But I was the one Madam ordered, so don't worry. Don't you also have your own work, Kanon? It's a filthy job. My soul was polluted long ago. Kanon then hung his head and bit his lower lip. Just hearing you say you'll help is enough for me. If you don't go back to your own job, then you'll be punished as well. And that would make me sad. Shannon knew Kanon's character well. Sometimes he didn't think enough about himself. If I don't refuse forcefully, he'll help me even if it means neglecting his own job. Kanon was a little sad that his goodwill had been rejected. But he realized that what he was doing would only hurt her more in the end, and he gave a single small sigh. Understood. Do your best, Ne-san. Yes. And I am also partly to blame. You aren't at fault at all, Ne-san. No, I am. So go now. Kanon's face showed that he still hadn't completely accepted it, but without being any more obstinate, he disappeared. Even though Kanon came to give me words of comfort when I was down, even so I was ejected again because it wasn't him. That in itself was a sin. It went far beyond any dream the likes of me could be permitted to see. I don't know my place. Shannon, who had neglected breakfast, already felt her concentration beginning to waver. But if she didn't finish up cleaning the reception hall, she wouldn't have received Natsui's permission to eat. That cruel Natsui had surely told the kitchen something to that effect. I have to respectfully receive Madam's punishment. That's right. My position in the world is furniture, and I've been intoxicated by a dream that's beyond me. I finished cleaning the hallway and went to the reception hall. Maybe my hunger made my nose more sensitive. I could sense a delicious aroma wafting from the kitchen, even though it was far away, and my empty stomach was encouraged even more. Until I finished up here, I wouldn't get any soup. I just had to resolve myself to doing it. Several portraits were hung in the reception hall. One of those portraits was thought to hold a special meaning amongst the servants. It was a portrait of the witch. That wasn't its true name, but everyone in the mansion called it that. The name of the woman with the elegant blonde hair, drawn as the subject of the portrait, it was Beatrice. It was whispered that she might be the former mistress of KenZerk the family had, and also that she was the great witch who had given KenZerk the gold of the legend. The witch Beatrice, master of the night on Rakenjima. She was gracious to those who respected her, but she would surely curse those who made light of her. It was in Shannon's character not to neglect rules and beliefs such as those, so she thought of the portrait of her other master as that person herself, and she always treated it carefully, treasuring it. And it had become a part of her daily routine to tell the witch, who only existed inside the portrait, the secrets of her heart. She was furniture. Furniture doesn't complain, cannot complain. So she had no right to speak her mind about her difficult days. She had no right to open her mouth and say those words. So she at least spoke her mind inside her heart. She spoke her mind inside her heart, using words she couldn't say aloud, and protested to the formless witch. Of course, the witch didn't answer. She didn't console and she didn't laugh it off. Shannon could only interpret that silence as she liked, as though the witch was responding agreeably. Beatrice-sama, please listen to the story of my worthless self. As Shannon wiped the dust from the witch's portrait, she spoke that inside her heart. I certainly am incompetent and uncultured, as Eva-sama said. I am not a person, so maybe I have no right to love. But in that case, why was I given a heart that can know love? At that point, Shannon held back her tears for a moment. The sound of the rain which had started falling, along with the chill air in the reception hall, made her feel as though her shabbiness had increased another level. Real furniture doesn't have anything like a heart, so they don't have to love people, right? So they don't feel pain. If I'm just another piece of furniture, why do I have a heart? If it's going to be this painful and this harsh, I wish I was never given a heart like this. Scared the fuck out of me. I see. So a heart was given to furniture. It would seem that even that man is capable of some quite amusing things every now and then. What? The witch that never answered or laughed, answered and laughed. Was it my imagination? Was I hearing things? No, that's wrong. After all, the next words became a voice, and I could hear them not with my heart but with my ears. Humans have continually searched for the elements that make up the world since before the modern era. It is said that in ancient times, the Greeks tried explaining the world with the four elements of wind, fire, water, and earth. And after that, over several millennia, humans added several elements to those four, trying to explain the world with several interpretations, such as the 5 elements, the 6 elements, the 7 elements, the 8 elements, and the 12 elements. But they were never able to describe the one sole truth that exists, the single element. However, a single man appeared by the guidance of a star and finally explained the single element that makes up the world. Know what it is? Oh. What? Who? Shannon fearfully turned around. Hi, Beatrice. Right there, she existed. Not as an illusion, but as a reality. The contrast made by the lightning made it clear that this was no mere daydream. It's love. The witch of the portrait elegantly held a golden pipe to her mouth and giggled. She laughed at the ignorance that causes mankind's thoughts to stray far from the most simple answer. That man explained everything in the world with love. That is a single element. That man fully explained how the world was constructed with the smallest possible number. How simple and clear, how splendid, exhilarating, pleasant, and thrilling. The year that man was finally born is called the start of the modern era. Shannon lost any words to speak. She thought that when first meeting an unknown guest, her first word should be to ask that person's name. But without saying anything, Shannon knew this person's name, so she refrained. No, surely it would be the greatest disrespect for someone who lived or worked on this island to ask this woman her name. After all, she was the other master of this island besides Kenzo. Beatrice-sama. Indeed, I am Beatrice. Even after 1,000 years, I see that people still always give me that look when we first meet. The witch giggled at how Shannon's reaction didn't betray her expectations. Shannon realized that she had been met with the being that mustn't be met with, and she took a step backward. That was where the wall and the portrait were, and even as she gazed at the witch's portrait was touching her back. The source of your troubles is love. Love, the single element that makes up this world. In other words, it is everything in this world. When it is lacking, your world is lacking too. It is no different than scooping water into a canteen with a hole in it. Even if you scoop and scoop, that eternal desert of the heart never fills. It is the original sin that humans are founded upon, and everything is made of. Understand? When Adam and Eve put the fruit of knowledge to their lips, love is what they learned of. Because of that, humans were chased out of the garden and became fully human. Which means that knowing love and suffering is what makes one human. You kind-hearted child. You ought to be praised. Know that you have gained this knowledge. You are no longer furniture. You are now human. I recognize that with the authority of my name. Is it hard for a common person to understand? Very well then. Forgive me. It has been a long time since I have spoken with a human. Allow me to apologize for my talkativeness. Without waiting for a reply from Shannon, Beatrice laughed pleasantly for a while. Perhaps this isn't much by way of an apology, but I would be willing to grant that wish of yours with my power if you so desire. The meaning of those words surprised Shannon even more than the witch's sudden appearance. I am offering to bring you and the one you love together. Normally, I would demand something of equal value in return. However, I am in a good mood, and you have never failed to pay your respects to me in the past. That is something worth rewarding. Is that true? Normally, Shannon would have been shocked and struck dumb by the seemingly impossible guess. However, almost as though she was already under the witch's spell, Shannon responded. With my magic, it would be no trouble at all to arrange for you to be joined with the one you love. Yes, of course. Shannon almost said that without thinking, but held back with the last bit of her common sense. After all, this is a witch, a sinister being. The witch Beatrice is clearly trying to slip through the cracks in my heart and take me prisoner. That sort of temptation, which so many fairy tale picture books warned me about when I was young, is right in front of me now. Fear is also a form of respect. It may be pleasant for me, but we will make no progress this way. I may not differ much from the image of the detestable witch that you hold in your mind. However, I do bestow my favor upon those who respect me. Aren't humans the same? Well, I doubt any human would bestow a favor upon one with such a hostile attitude. My apologies. I didn't mean... Shannon eventually realized how rude she was acting towards his guest, and she finally digested the words that had been spoken to her a short while ago. You are no longer furniture. Now you are human. As she reflected upon those words, Shannon felt as though the witch understood all her worries. What was that, just now? About a reward? I say that I can arrange for you to be joined with the man who has captured your heart. Think of it as a sign of my gratitude for your diligence in polishing my portraits day after day. Calm yourself. I ask for nothing in return. I am generous. However, though I ask for nothing in return, I do have a request. Look, here it comes. Part of Shannon's heart sent her a warning. This is what all those scary picture books she'd read when she was little had warned her about. Do you know of the small Taurian shrine that had been constructed on the ocean very near this island, which you can see when you gaze at the cliffs? Shannon immediately remembered it. When you reached Rockinjima by boat, there was a Taurian shrine on a reef that was too small to be called even an islet. I'm sure Kumasawa told me its history, but I can't remember it well. A traveling Shugenja, a kind of holy man, had built it or prayed there or something. Yes, I know about it. But why do you bring it up? I will not explain everything, including the basics, to one ignorant of demons. Simply put, it's causing me trouble. The truth is, there is a mirror kept inside that shrine. I want you to break it. It was quite a suspicious request. Shannon didn't know the details, but anything stored inside a shrine would have to be something sacred. And she wants me to break it? Why would a witch ask a human for help instead of doing it herself? There was no need for Shannon to speak her thoughts aloud. Beatrice responded to Shannon's reasonable doubt. Hey, reasonable doubt before Shannon could give her an answer.
あの鏡の魔力は
The magical power of that mirror opposes my own. I cannot explain it well with human words. For example, let us speak of the differences between utensils. That mirror is a fork and my power is soup. You cannot drink soup with a fork, correct? If only the resistance of that mirror were gone, I could produce a spoon ideal for drinking soup. After that, I could drink soup as I pleased, and even dig my way out of a rocky prison. I could even gouge someone's eyes out with it. Was that not the phrase? Was she referencing the last chapter? Of gouging out? No. They didn't, because you don't gouge out the eye, you gouge out the forehead or some shit. You don't gouge out the eye. I don't know what you're talking about. If my poor education is to blame, I apologize. It comes down to this. If you take action and break that annoying mirror for me, I shall grant your wish as a reward. I am in quite a good mood today. You may even change your wish and receive all the gold I bestowed upon Kenzo if you so desire. Dokuwara. What? When she heard Shannon's words, Beatrice realized for the first time that her expectations had been betrayed. If you have a reason, tell me. If there has been some misunderstanding, I shall resolve it. I don't really understand the reason, but up until now, this island has been at peace, and nothing bad has happened. So even if I don't break the mirror, the peace that has existed until today should continue into the future. Yes, you are quite right. It's just as you say. If you don't break the mirror, the same unbreakable days that have passed until now will continue into tomorrow and the next day. Why don't I give you an absolute guarantee? I shall stake my name, Beatrice, on it. The unbreakable days before this time will continue until tomorrow and the next day. And for eternity, and perpetuity. Shannon felt overwhelmed by an eerie illusion. The mirror probably existed for the purpose of restraining the witch. So if Shannon broke it, the person who stood to gain was supposedly the witch herself. And yet, Shannon felt somehow that she had to do it for her own sake. It felt like some premise had been switched around. I will do nothing but grant you a chance to bring your feelings to fruition. It's up to you to decide whether you'll break it or not. If you break it, I shall grant your wish. If you don't, the tomorrows that came before today will continue for all eternity. Your wish will not be granted for all time. So she basically just strong-armed her. Do you understand? Do you see what I mean? She's a bit of a sore loser. The witch was speaking. She was pressing Shannon, saying she must break the mirror if she ever wanted to be united with George. It was a declaration that Shannon's feelings would never be brought to fruition unless she broke it. Please stop it. I don't want to hear something like that. It was never my goal to cause you pain. Oh well. When love leads to madness, that is when we see the true charm of humanity. Enjoy that emotion to your heart's content. However, if you wish to borrow my power, feel free to break that mirror at any time. And then you may yell my name and awaken me. I will certainly keep my promise. This way, you should have no complaints, right? I won't force you to decide right now. Easy, is it not? Was it really such an easy thing to do? No, it certainly wasn't. To Shannon, who was burning with infatuation and worried by love. Being tempted constantly and eternally with a way out was truly a cruel trial. I won't set a time limit on that promise, but there is a time limit on the magic that can grant your wish. That limit is not of my making. The one you love will decide it himself. You see my meaning? No, I don't understand. When the one you care for finds a partner to whom he ought to pledge his love, that limit will be reached. I may be a witch, but I am no demon. I possess no magic to tear apart a pair of those who love each other. The one you love will soon be attending a marriage meeting, yes? You may have stronger feelings for that man than anyone else in the world. However, that does not mean you are the most suitable partner for him, does it? I know with whom he will be having his marriage meeting. That girl is the most suitable for Ushiramiya George in the entire world. She came from a good school, achieved good grades, and possesses good composure and thoughtfulness. She is more beautiful than you, wiser than you, more suitable than you. How could an ignorant, incompetent, uncultured girl like you be suitable? You know better than anyone. There are none less suitable than you. Even imagining that you and Ushiramiya George could be joined is sinful and foolish, foolish, foolish. Know your place. Have you forgotten to be grateful for your education? Oh, she's just repeating what they said. She's just being a dickhead. Know your place. George is the eldest grandson carrying father's blood. He is a person, sounds like Ava, who may bear the burden of the Ushiramiya family someday in the future. To answer that expectation, he has studied tirelessly, entered a wonderful college, and is getting wonderful grades. Did you really think you could snatch George away? You uneducated, incompetent, unqualified, uncultured servant? Stop it! Don't bully Shannon! Who the hell are you? At that time, as Shannon held her head, trying to protect her heart from the blade of Beatrice's words, Kanon ran in front of her. Kanon didn't care who this woman was. If this was a woman tormenting Shannon, whom he loved and respected as a sister, nothing else mattered. Kanon! Stay back! This person is... It seemed Kanon also realized that the being standing before him was the witch of the portrait, and also that she was something to be feared. I simply wish to give Shannon a chance to claim her reward, but it seems I said too much and ended up hurting her. I must apologize for that. But I shall leave behind that promise as a reward to you. If you need my power, call me at any time. I have already told you how. Well then, let us call it a night. Hostile gazes may be pleasant, but they damage your beauty, yes? Disappear! I don't know who you are, but you're threatening Shannon. Don't ever show yourself again! Kanon's words seemed to deeply annoy the witch. Watch your language, lowborn. I may be gracious to those who respect me, but I am brutal to those who do not. While she still smiled, the witch's face began to twist itself. Then an oppressive feeling that couldn't be noticed with any of the five senses gradually filled the room. Even though they couldn't understand it, they immediately recognized it was something terrifying. When you swim in the ocean and something large passes by the water underneath you, you want to escape to land before you even learn what it is. That's exactly what this was like. Please stop, Beatrice-sama. Kanon is still a child. I apologize for his language. Kanon placed his body between the witch and Shannon. There was tense sweat on his forehead. At that time, the witch certainly held Kanon's fate in the palm of her hand. She didn't even need to lift a finger. She held a grasp on his fate, so tight that a single twist of her smile could easily crush it. Kanon understood that as well, so he started sweating. His knees felt weak. However, Beatrice abruptly released that feeling of tension and laughed. Very well. If you ask, I will forgive you just this once. Kanon, is it? In deference to her, I shall forgive you tonight and send you off. You ought to thank me. Well then, let us call it a night. In parting, I shall leave you with a small souvenir. Hold out the palm of your left hands, you two. When Beatrice grinned broadly and snapped her fingers, their left hands stretched out in front of them against their will and their palms opened. It was a strange sensation, as though their left hands now belonged to someone else. It felt like only their left hands had become puppets, which were being pulled by strings hanging down from the ceiling. What are you trying to do? Kanon resisted, but he couldn't retract his hand of his own free will. Don't struggle. It'll be over soon. When Beatrice held her pipe aloft, a golden-colored sparkling dust came out of the smoke and hovered in the air. That sparkle eventually became several golden butterflies. Ooh, I'm gonna use this for a thumbnail too, damn. The beautiful butterflies danced freely throughout the reception hall, forming a fantastical and beautiful world. And two of those butterflies alighted on the palms of Shannon and Kanon's hands. Ouch! There was a sharp pain as though they had been burned. When the two of them tried to examine their palms, that hold on their bodies, which was there a second ago, had gone without a trace. A mark? What is... There was now a tiny burn mark on the palm of her hand. It was the shape of a butterfly. What is this supposed to be? Apparently Kanon had the same mark on his hand. He stared at the witch hatefully. A simple greeting. I have no hidden motive. It is nothing more than a bruise, so it will heal in just a few days. There is not even any need to care for it. I made that mark so that tomorrow you will not forget that I was truly here and that I made a promise with you. An encounter with me can be quite shocking. Sometimes when the next morning comes, people try to think of such an encounter as a dream or an illusion. You ought to consider this slowly and carefully, Shannon. And you should probably take a good rest. Look at my mark tomorrow morning and try considering it again. I shall not coerce you in any way. You should freely decide your future by your own will. Still, to think that one could obtain the object of their desires for such a small price. Surely this would annoy to no end the great artists who write plays about blighted love. Well then, let us meet again when the chance arises. How entertaining it is to have a conversation again after so much time. Goodbye, furniture. She just be talking. Like, she's not mean, but she's not nice. Like, she will sit here and she will be nice to you for fucking hours on end. And at the very end, she'll call you a bitch ass nigga just to laugh about it. Like, you was just saying she's not furniture. You just said she was human. You just said that she deserved love. And then you finish it off by calling her furniture. Just so you can laugh about the shit. Just to be a dickhead. I'll fuck with that. Beatrice's body crumbled like smoke and blew away. It was a golden smoke. No, a cloud of gold butterflies. They scattered in all directions inside the reception hall, leaving a golden splash before disappearing into thin air. After that, only the cold silence was left. It was so silent, it made both of them think they might have been daydreaming until just a moment ago, which was why the witch had left those marks. She had done so to make it impossible for them to think that this had been a daydream. As Shannon and Kanon remembered the butterfly bruises on their hands and the pain they'd felt when they'd been made, they kept standing still, stunned. And from that moment on, Shannon was tormented by days of suffering and conflict. That's the end of the episode, guys. If y'all enjoyed, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and read them out, type into the next one. Looks like Beatrice is going to be having a way more active role in this episode. Well, I mean, it says turn of the Golden Witch, like this is her turn. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this shit plays out, dead ass. Not really much for me to say though, you know? I don't have much to say. Bye bye, love you guys. See y'all next episode.